Good day, I'm Dr. Tim, and in this video clip, we are going to cover Module 3, Cloud Computing, and the learning objectives including understanding the cloud computing concept, differentiate the various cloud deployment models, and some issues and challenges in implementing the cloud computing. What is cloud computing? General term used in the cloud computing is actually to describe a new class of network-based computing that takes place over the internet. It's a collection or group of integrated and network hardware or software or internet infrastructure that you can share or you can provide all these services to the customer. Either it's a hardware or software or infrastructure as a service. Using internet for communication and transport provides the hardware, software, and networking services to the clients. So you must connect to the internet in order to provide the service or enjoy the services. So for example, this is a SoundCloud mobile apps that uses cloud computing to supply or to provide services to the customer in order for them to search for their favorite music, and then you can listen to the music on through these apps, or you can create your own list of music that you like. Other examples are Google search, web-based email, and also Google Documents. And we will look at this in detail again in the following slides. What are the advantages of cloud computing? Now, cloud computing is cost efficient because you will need to store a lot of data. Say, for example, you have big data, so you need to have a lot of very powerful, many powerful servers. So in order to reduce the cost of the server maintenance, you might want to save your big data into the cloud. So the cloud will be providing you the storage service, which will be much more cost efficient because you don't have to hire IT expert to maintain your server, and you don't have to maintain a powerful and expensive server. Other than that, it is of high speed because of the faster deployment of services in fewer clicks. You don't have to recreate the software that you want or the system that you want, but it is provided in a service called SaaS, Software as a Service. Other than that, excellent accessibility, which also means that you will be able to access to your documents or to your software or platform from anywhere and anytime at any time, because as long as you are connected to the internet, you'll be able to access to all the services. It is more manageable because you don't need to actually hire more IT staff to maintain your system or your servers. Of strategy edge, deploy in-demand application to get a strategy edge over other companies, because if you make use of the your own IT staff to develop new system, then it might take a lot of time because they are not expert in certain application. But through the cloud computing, the cloud providers might provide you the application that you need, and you just need to click and choose the services or the application that you want for your company, and they will charge accordingly. Other than that, it also allowed sporadic batch processing, add or subtract resources and services as per requirements, as what we have mentioned I have mentioned just now. You will just need to click on the specification that you want, and you will be charged accordingly. And you have a very good place for data backup and recovery. It is very easy to get backup and recovery. You just have to set the auto backup. Let's take a look at the cloud architecture, and you can actually find different kinds of architecture online, different models. And in this case, we make use of NIST reference architecture. Now, under this reference architecture, there are 5 main actors or players in the cloud computing. The first will be the consumer, then the cloud provider, the auditor, broker, and the carrier. So let's take a look at each one of these and the relationship between them. Cloud consumer will be requesting service from either directly cloud provider or cloud broker. So cloud broker will be like a middleman between the consumer and the cloud provider. Sometimes the consumer might directly get service from the cloud provider. Sometimes broker might combine several services from different cloud provider and create a better package for the consumer. Whereas for the cloud auditor, this will be the one that is going to audit the performance and also the satisfaction from the cloud consumer, cloud broker, services from the cloud provider. And the cloud carrier is an intermediary that provide connectivity and transport of the cloud services from the provider to the consumers. Cloud carriers provide the connectivity transport of cloud services from the provider to the consumer, and they will need to arrange this service level agreements, or we call it SLAs, one with the consumer, and SLA, the agreement with the cloud carrier. So you will need to with the provider. Okay, SLA between cloud carrier with the cloud provider, and then SLA with the cloud consumer. Cloud provider need to arrange this service level agreement. We will need to actually list out what are the services that you want for this particular cloud consumer. And then the cloud then cloud carrier you will need to also sign agreement with this cloud carrier to request on the dedicated and encrypted connection for this particular service, because you want to provide service to this consumer, so you will have to request the connectivity from this carrier. So you have to sign this service level agreement arranged on this SLA. Then the provider may specify its requirements on capability, flexibility, functionality that you need from this SLA in order to provide the requirements stated in this SLA 1. Okay, so cloud provider, you will need to arrange the SLA with the cloud carrier in order to provide service that is stated in this SLA to the cloud consumer. So that's a connection between cloud provider, consumer, and the carrier, together with the service level agreements. For cloud service, cloud auditor conduct independent assessment of the operation and security of the cloud service implementation to ensure the quality of cloud computing. The audit may involve interaction with both the cloud consumer and also cloud provider, because they need to find out from the consumer the true feedback from them, and also audit at the same time from the get the feedback from the cloud provider at the same time. Example services available to a cloud consumer. Now there are three big different types of services: SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. Software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. So these are different kinds of services available to the cloud consumer. And then based on the different kinds of services, like for example SaaS, you will get all these software online for your enterprise. You can choose which software or which system that you would like to sign up as a service through the cloud computing. Then platform as a service, you will be able to get, say for example, development and testing platform, or database platform, application deployment platform. Whereas for IaaS, infrastructure as a service, you'll be able to get storage, platform hosting, computation, services management, backup, recovery, and etc. So all these are packed under infrastructure as a service. Major activities for cloud provider. Cloud provider is a person, or it can be an organization, entity responsible for making the service available to the interested parties or the consumer. They acquire, manage the computing infrastructure required to provide the service for the customer. and then run the cloud software that provides the service, make arrangement to deliver the cloud service to the cloud consumer through the network access. So this will be the main activity, service deployment. They will need to deploy the service and provide this service to, or offer this service to the consumer. Service orchestration, you will need to combine like service from this package, and then combine several into different model for the consumer. Then cloud service management, security management, and privacy management. Service deployment, for example, deployment means you will need to provide and deploy the service, provide the service. It can be either on the public cloud, hybrid cloud, private cloud, or community cloud. So we'll look into this again in a later stage. Cloud orchestration refers to the composition of system components to support your cloud provider activity in arrangement, coordination, management of your resources, the services, in order to provide the service to the cloud consumer. The management includes all of the service-related functions that are necessary for management and operation of the service required by or proposed to the cloud consumer. Security, you will need to also address or manage the security requirement, for example, authentication, authorization, availability, confidentiality, and etc. And privacy, you will need to also provide protection. The cloud provider will need to protect your data because you are going to store your data in their database, in their platform, in their infrastructure. So they will need to ensure privacy is protected. Essential characteristics of cloud computing, including broad network access. You must make sure your cloud computing has this network access, rapid elasticity, major service are provided, on-demand self-service is available, and also resource pooling. So let's take a look at each one of these essential characteristics. The first is broad network access. Access through standard client computers, mobile devices, desktop, laptop. These are very common and popular implementation that you must include in your cloud computing. Traditional or cloud-based software services, application processors. So you must ensure that these are actually supported, can be supported by the customer's browser. The next characteristic is rapid elasticity. Services can be rapidly and elastic or flexibly provisioned, in some cases automatically to quickly scale out and rapidly change, release to quickly scale in. Sometimes the business environment is changing rapidly, so you must enable the customer to select certain services that they want or include certain packages, although you have already signed an agreement, but you allow them to make some changes and charge accordingly. Measured service automatically control and optimize the resource usage from time to time, leveraging a metering capacity. Means you provide a meter capability at some level of abstraction. So sometimes you might want to observe, you might want to record, optimize the performance. So this metering might not be visible to the customer, but you might want to do some network optimization through the metering. Utility computing, you pay for what you use. So when the, let's say for example, a business might sign up certain package with you, and sometimes their requirements might increase. I mean, the transaction might increase due to certain season of peak hours of time. So they might be flexible. They should be able. You should be able to detect this. Okay, and then measure the service that you provide to them, and find out that actually they will need to actually upgrade their service. So based on this metering and control, automatic control, you would like to suggest, you can suggest to your consumer to upgrade their package. Another characteristic, on-demand self-service, consumer can unilaterally provision computing capabilities such as server time and network storage as needed automatically without requiring human interaction with a service provider. Sometimes it's very troublesome for you to contact the agent or contact your customer service. It takes time. You write email in, they might reply it within a day time, but not instantly. So what you will need to provide for this cloud computing services is that let the users have certain flexibility in controlling what I want to switch on, what I want to switch off, and so on and so forth, or make use of certain capability, computing capability, to let them know the performance of the performance of the system now, and they will decide whether they want to optimize it by upgrading the package or not. Resource pooling. Resources are pooled to serve multiple consumers using a multi-tenant model, different physical and virtual resources. So for example, a server in the cloud computing service cloud provider, they might not give you a totally new server for you only. It might be a multi-tenant model, which means that you are sharing with another tenant. That is possible, and that is called resource pooling. Location independent, exact location of resources are not in the consumer or the customer control. It will be allocated based on the computing calculation of the optimization or to optimize the utilization of their server. Now let's switch to another topic, which is about the cloud service model, and there are three main models here: software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. So these are the three different cloud service model that you can provide to your customer. Let's take a look at each of the service model. The first is software as a service. As you can see from here, the cloud service here, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, software as a service, offer application or the software that are accessible through the website or through the internet and managed by your company. But this is actually belong to the software provider. Okay, by the software provider, they are managing this software, but you can make use of the software. Sorry, you can use the software, but you cannot make any changes to the software. The software can be changed only by the service provider or the cloud provider. This relieves your organization from the constant pressure of software maintenance, infrastructure management, network security, data availability, and other operational issues involved with keeping application up and running. So sometimes you might not want to develop a totally new system for your own organization because it requires IT resources to maintain it, and therefore you will need to you might want to choose this SaaS. How about the billing? The billing is typically based on factors such as the number of users that use the software, usage time, amount of data stored, and number of transactions processed. Especially for small companies, this is a startup company, you might not want to spend 100,000 to just build a small transaction processing system. So you can make use of SaaS because the transaction might be only like 10 to 15 transactions per day. So you might want to sign up a package that include less than 50 or 100 transactions per day. So this will be a package which is much more cheaper and affordable to the organization. The service model has the largest market share in the cloud computing. According to Gartner, its sales reached 117 billion USD by the year of 2021. Current application for SAS, for example, field service solutions, system monitoring solutions, schedulers, and etc. Okay, so these are some example of software as a service like email, office, productivity. We will not, organization will not develop their own email system, right? So you can make use of the existing cloud provider like Google, Yahoo. Okay, other than that will be customer service, a customer relationship management system. This is a big system as well, or human resources system, sales system, social networks, and ERP system. Let's move on to the next service model, which is platform as a service. Platform as a service is halfway between infrastructure as a service and also software as a service. So it stands in between SaaS and also IaaS. It offers access to a cloud-based environment. User can build and deliver application without the need of installing and working with IDE. The development environment, integrated development environment, which are often very expensive. Like for example, the IDE, you must purchase a license key. If you want to purchase a full set of IDE, it will be very expensive, especially for the whole organization. You have many user or many software engineers, then you will need to purchase for organization or enterprise level with certain amount of user, limit of amount of user they can access. Additionally, user can often customize the features they want include with their subscription. According to Gartner, PaaS has the smallest market share of the three service model. And in today's market, PaaS providers offer application, the whole set of application. For example, Microsoft Azure, Google Apps, Engine, and Apache. Okay, these are other examples of PaaS. Okay, let's move on to IaaS. Offer a standardized way of acquiring computing capabilities on demand and over the web, so you can access it through the web, including the storage facilities, networks, processing power, virtual private servers. So you can rent a server from them. These are charged under a pay-as-you-go model, where you are billed by factors such as how much storage you use or the amount of processing power you consume over a certain time frame. In this service model, customers do not need to manage the infrastructure. Say, for example, if your organization want to purchase a server, you will need to have someone there, a database administrator, to maintain that infrastructure, that hardware, that server, including the installation of the software, including the maintenance of the hardware, including setting up the authentication or authorization level, set up the firewall. So all this kind of maintenance or tedious work can be done by through this IaaS, and the cloud provider will be maintaining it for you. It is up to the provider to guarantee the contracted amount of resources and availability. So the more resources that you request from them, the more, like for example, the processing power, the speed, or the storage space, the higher that you request, definitely the higher amount of money that you have to pay. Example including Google Cloud Platform and Amazon EC2. So these are some example of IaaS: backup recovery, computation, content delivery, network service management, storage. Okay, so we have looked at three different types of services, service model of cloud computing. Now, all these service model can be deployed or can be implemented by choosing either use public cloud, private cloud, community cloud, or hybrid cloud. So let's take a look at four of this deployment model. Public cloud, cloud infrastructure and computing resources are made available to the general public over a public network, and it is owned by an organization selling the cloud services and serve a diverse pool of clients. So it's public, everybody can access to it and everybody can use it, but definitely you will need to pay a certain amount of money if you need further storage or if you need further services from them. For private cloud, as the name states, it's actually give a single cloud consumers organization the exclusive access. So only the organization can access to that infrastructure, can access to that computational resources. It may be managed either by the cloud consumer organization or by the third party or by the cloud provider or by the cloud broker. It depends. Whereas for community cloud, serve a group of cloud consumer which have shared concern. For example, they have the same mission objective, security, privacy, compliance policy, rather than serving a single organization. So you might have several organizations with the same mission, and they can actually share a community cloud. It is similar to private clouds. Community cloud may be managed by organization or by another third party, may be implemented on consumer premise or outsourced to a hosting company. An on-site community cloud comprised of number of participant organizations, so you have several organizations that join together. Cloud consumer can access the local cloud resources and also resources of other participating organizations through the connection between the associated organization. You might have several organizations, they might have their own cloud services, and you can actually group them together into a community cloud. So whoever that is inside this community, they will be able to access each other's services, cloud services, but definitely you will need to sign agreement in order to join that community because nothing is free. All right, and outsourced community cloud where the server side is outsourced to a hosting company. An outsourced community cloud builds its infrastructure off-premise and serves a set of organizations that request and consume cloud services. So we have explained this. Okay, and next will be the hybrid cloud. It's a composition of two or more clouds. Either this on-site private cloud, on-site community cloud, off-site private cloud, off-site community or public cloud. Remain as distinct entity but are bound together by standardized or proprietary technology that enable data and application portability. So it depends on the design of the cloud deployment model that you want to apply for your organization. It can be private. Definitely private cloud will be much more expensive as compared to other cloud. It can be open cloud, it can be community cloud, it can be hybrid cloud. Now let's move on to explore the security impact of the service model. As we have discussed just now, we have infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Now, if you look at all these different kinds of service model, the responsibility of the security will be actually handled by different party. Most, if you are using IaaS, the infrastructure as a service, mostly consumer will be handling the security, responsible more for the security. But of course, the provider will also need to bear some responsibility, but mostly will be consumer. If you're using SaaS is the software that is totally you cannot change. Everything must be maintained by the provider. So in this case, everything must be managed by the provider. In this case, the provider will have to make sure that they bear the full responsibility to ensure that the software is secure to use. Let's take a look at the different for different service model, the security impact. Information as a service, IaaS, CSP provides an underlying infrastructure. This is infrastructure as a service. Okay, not information. Infrastructure as a service. So when you provide this service, cloud service provider provide the infrastructure, and a manufacturing organization use these resources to manage its data and software application. So when you manage it, you will have to actually also make sure that it is secure because this is used by you. You manage it. Okay. For platform as a service, CSP provide not only the infrastructure but also the application development platform. The manufacturing organization has fewer infrastructure elements to manage but still retain the control over some system administration. So they still need to manage some part of it. This reduce the responsibility of the manufacturing organization but translate into less control over resources and thus higher security risk for the organization. Because let's say, for example, if we provide SaaS, which is fully secured by this provider, fully handled by this provider, then the security, the risk will be lower as compared to these two types, because these two types is like, okay, I open up a part of it for you to manage, so the risk will be like half way. Software as a service, total control. So when they have total control over the administration, the management of the software, okay, then you will have the higher, you will have the lower risk in the security. But definitely organization, you will have higher risk because organization, you don't have any control over the SaaS. I mean, you have the least control over the SaaS. You don't know how the service provider is going to use your data, is going to use your software, or is going to use whatever that you have, information that you have with that. These are some very popular or top cloud providers in 2022: Oracle, AWS, Azure, Microsoft Azure, Google, IBM Cloud. Impact of COVID-19 to cloud technology. Some impact analysis of COVID-19. Market impact. This market will have positive impact due to the spread of COVID-19. Information technology sector will see mixed impact due to COVID-19 outbreak and expected to register neutral growth rate compared to the global GDP growth. Okay, during the COVID-19, everything goes online. So when everything goes online, you don't have hard copy. Definitely the data storage will need higher storage. You will need to subscribe to higher storage, and you can see that your Google Drive suddenly the Google storage is not enough anymore, right? Because of the impact from this COVID-19. So in that case, it will cause the cloud computing technology to develop and growing very fast. Let's take a look at a very specific AWS, Amazon Web Service. This is the largest share of the worldwide market in both database PaaS, platform as a service offering, as well as IaaS. So they are very popular in PaaS and also IaaS. Generating more than 50% of Amazon's operating income. It's no wonder why AWS is referred to as a supreme leader in the cloud computing. Microsoft Azure, okay, another popular service provider, provide a complete set of end-to-end solutions that address varying application workload, perfectly suited for organization that already Microsoft centric. So if your organization install a lot of Microsoft Office or Microsoft products, then Microsoft Azure will be one that suits your organization. Because if you're using different cloud service provider, the connection specification, when you upload your files, there might be some kinds like sometimes you might face like incompatibility issue. So if you're using Microsoft, then you go for Microsoft Azure. Some other explanation about the Microsoft Azure. Okay, Google is another very popular, known for its open source contribution, TensorFlow and Kubernetes, that have completely changed the course of enterprise IT. So there are many enterprises in Malaysia that make use of Google. They use Google. They subscribe for the enterprise, Google Enterprise, which give us a lot of other application which you don't get. Say for example, in an educational institution, if it is Google based, then you will be able to enjoy Google Classroom, be able to enjoy more Google Share Drive, more you will have additional features. Like for example, you can do recording function in your Google Meet. But if you are non-enterprise subscriber, you might not be able to record it. You will not be able to use this feature. Okay, let's move on to switch to another topic, which is about issues and challenges. Security issues. Company adopting cloud have to trust the third party or the cloud provider to store their data safely without any intrusion from outside or without sharing it to another third party. And then availability issue. Cloud is hosted in the internet, so you must make sure that you have a good network connection, which is not so much a big issue unless you are working outside of the organization. So using the public Wi-Fi network access network connection might become an issue here, because you might worry the public network is not so safe to use, because you are accessing to the organization database. Okay, applications not ready. In some cases, it may not be ready. It might not be easy to migrate the application to cloud, as the application may have specific bandwidth request, integration requests, and etc. that cannot be satisfied in the cloud environment. So cloud Say for example, a very simple example of application that is not compatible. When you use Google document as compared to Microsoft Word document, it is different. Because when you construct a simple passage or write out by using the Microsoft the Google Doc, it has no issue at all. But if you are constructing, or if you are going to actually produce a journal paper or article paper with a lot of formatting that you have to do, then Google document is a constraint, so application not ready. Regulatory issues. Certain country may have some legal and regulatory standard that can have an impact on the company ability to engage with the cloud service provider. For example, Google, in China, they cannot use Google, they cannot use Google Search, they cannot use Google Share, they can use Google Meet. So that is due to the the country regulation. This is another issue in cloud computing. All right, with that, we have done with this module 3, which is about cloud computing technology, the service model, the architectural model, some issues and challenges in deploying the cloud computing in different deployment model. I'll see you again in the next video clip.